Welcome to Dinar Daily. In the intricate and often turbulent world of global finance, few topics have commanded as much sustained attention and speculation as the future of the Iraqi dinar. Today, we delve into a development that has sent reverberations through financial circles worldwide, a signal so distinct that many are viewing it as a potential turning point in Iraq's modern economic history. The conversation revolves around a specific exchange rate, a figure that is reportedly being discussed in high-level talks involving the United States. This news has electrified observers from seasoned economists to the everyday citizens of Iraq, all of whom are watching with bated breath. For many years, the narrative surrounding the dinar has been a complex tapestry of hope, frustration, and persistent rumor. This time, however, the information emerging suggests a more structured and substantive dialogue is underway, potentially marking the initial, tangible steps toward a new, economic chapter for the nation. The figure at the center of this widespread discussion is an exchange rate of 80 cents. This number has become a focal point because it represents a monumental shift from the currency's current valuation, suggesting a transformation that could be considered nothing short of revolutionary for Iraq's economy. According to sources familiar with the ongoing economic discussions, this specific value is not an arbitrary or speculative guess. Instead, it is said to be the product of months of meticulous technical planning, extensive international cooperation, and discreet negotiations between key financial entities in Baghdad, Washington, and other global financial capitals. The emergence of this figure suggests a move beyond theoretical revaluation and into a phase of practical, calculated restructuring. It implies a foundational rebuilding of confidence in Iraq's monetary system, underpinned by a concerted effort from both national authorities and their international partners for over 2 decades. Since the early 2000s, the story of the Iraqi dinar has been one of dramatic highs and prolonged lows, a journey followed closely by a dedicated community of international observers. Many have held on to the belief that Iraq's vast natural resources, particularly its immense oil reserves, coupled with its strategic geopolitical position, would inevitably lead to a stronger and more stable currency. Yet, persistent challenges including institutional corruption, political instability, and a lack of systemic transparency have consistently tempered these expectations, keeping the dream of a robust dinar just out of reach. Now, as we move through 2025, the narrative appears to be evolving. The renewed discourse surrounding a potential 80 cents rate indicates that significant foundational work may have finally been accomplished, paving the way for a more stable and predictable economic future. The renewed sense of possibility is reportedly rooted in a growing alignment between international financial institutions and Iraq's own central bank. Behind the scenes, it appears a consensus is forming around a series of deep-seated reforms that are seen as essential prerequisites for any successful currency adjustment. The key understanding is that such a monumental change cannot happen overnight but must be the culmination of a series of deliberate, carefully managed steps. At the very core of this entire endeavor lies a fundamental economic principle. The value of any currency is ultimately a reflection of the trust placed in the institutions that issue and manage it. For many years, Iraq's primary economic obstacle has not been a scarcity of resources, but a profound deficit of confidence. Both from its own citizens and from the global investment community, this deep-seated lack of trust has manifested in a unique, economic phenomenon often referred to by economists as the mattress money problem. For decades, born from a history of instability and a wariness of formal financial systems, a significant portion of the Iraqi populace has chosen to store their wealth in physical cash, hidden away in their homes rather than deposited in banks. This practice, while understandable from a personal security perspective, has created a massive, unquantifiable pool of money circulating entirely outside the formal economy. This shadow money supply has made it virtually impossible for the Central Bank of Iraq to accurately gauge the nation's total liquidity, thereby crippling its ability to formulate and execute effective monetary policies or to establish a stable, reliable exchange rate that reflects the country's true economic standing. However, recent shifts suggest that this long-standing challenge may finally be starting to recede. The Iraqi government has reportedly been implementing new initiatives aimed at rebuilding public trust in the national banking system and encouraging citizens to move their savings from private stashes into formal accounts. This push toward greater financial transparency and participation is a critical component of the broader reform agenda. Every single dinar that remains outside the banking system represents a missing piece of the national economic puzzle. Without a clear picture of how much currency is actually in circulation, any attempt to set or manage a new exchange rate would be based on incomplete data, risking severe economic dislocation and instability. This is why the effort to formalize the nation's money supply is so vital. When citizens begin to deposit their cash holdings into banks, a transformative process is set in motion. The central bank gains unprecedented visibility into the nation's financial landscape. Economists and policymakers can then accurately track monetary flows, measure the real levels of liquidity in the system, and design targeted policies to manage the economy and keep inflationary pressures under control. This is precisely the kind of institutional capacity and stability that international partners, including the United States, have been looking for as a sign of Iraq's readiness for a more profound economic integration. The very fact that a specific rate like 80 cents is reportedly being acknowledged in international discussions suggests that these crucial internal steps are beginning to yield tangible and measurable results, building a stronger foundation for the future. It is crucial to understand that adjusting a nation's currency is one of the most delicate and high-stakes operations a government can undertake. The process is not as simple as flipping a switch. It is a meticulous balancing act. If policymakers move too aggressively or too quickly, they risk unleashing runaway inflation that could decimate savings and destabilize the entire economy. Conversely, if they move too slowly or indecisively, they risk losing market confidence and squandering the momentum for reform. This is the tightrope that Iraqi policymakers are currently walking. They understand that a gradual, carefully planned rollout is essential for success. This approach involves a sequence of reinforcing actions designed to prepare the economy and the populace for the change. This phase strategy is expected to include several key components designed to ensure a smooth transition. One anticipated step is the introduction of lower denomination banknotes, which would simplify everyday transactions and signal a return to normalcy. Another crucial element is the continued strengthening of the banking sector's infrastructure to ensure it can handle the increased activity and manage the exchange process efficiently and securely. Furthermore, stabilizing domestic prices before a new rate takes full effect is paramount to prevent the kind of economic shock that could undermine public support. Every single detail, from updating the software that runs the nation's financial institutions to developing comprehensive training programs for staff who will handle currency exchanges, must be executed with precision to avoid confusion and maintain order. The specific figure of 80 cents is believed to have been chosen for strategic reasons, as it strikes a difficult but necessary balance between domestic aspirations and international economic realities. On one side, a rate at this level would be high enough to restore a sense of value and faith among ordinary Iraqis, who have long seen their currency's purchasing power diminish. A stronger dinar would make their existing savings more valuable overnight, creating a powerful incentive for them to finally move their mattress money into the formal banking system. This would, in turn, provide the central bank with the liquidity and data it needs to effectively manage the economy. It is a move designed to inspire confidence from the ground up, empowering citizens and strengthening the financial system simultaneously. Asterisk on the other side of the equation. The 80 cents figure is also seen as being calibrated to protect Iraq's broader economic interests, particularly its export sector. If the dinar were to become too strong too quickly, it would make Iraqi-produced goods and services prohibitively expensive for foreign buyers. This could stifle the growth of non-oil industries and undermine the government's crucial efforts to diversify the economy away from its overwhelming dependence on hydrocarbon exports. In this sense, the proposed rate is a calculated compromise strong enough to rebuild domestic confidence and attract investment, yet cautious enough to avoid harming the country's long-term competitiveness on the global stage. It represents a strategic pivot towards sustainable growth. This potential transformation of Iraq's currency does not and cannot exist in a vacuum. It is a process deeply intertwined with international cooperation and global financial mechanics. A currency adjustment of this magnitude requires seamless coordination on a global scale. The world's banking systems, currency trading platforms, and international payment networks all need to be synchronized to accommodate the change. Any significant discrepancy or lack of preparedness could create arbitrage opportunities, market volatility, or even systemic chaos. This is why the reported acknowledgement from the United States carries such immense weight. It is interpreted by many observers as more than just a political approval. It is seen as a sign of active preparation for the technical and the logistical challenges ahead. The signal from Washington suggests that the necessary conversations between Baghdad and other key global financial players are already well underway. This dialogue is essential to ensure that all the required systems, data protocols, and regulatory frameworks are aligned and ready for the shift when the time comes. This international groundwork is complemented by an acceleration of reforms within Iraq itself. The government has reportedly been intensifying its efforts to tighten controls on money laundering, pushing forward with meaningful anti-corruption measures, and continuing the critical work of upgrading its digital banking infrastructure. These are not isolated or random policy choices. They are the essential building blocks being laid to construct a modern, transparent, and resilient financial system, capable of supporting a more valuable currency for the many international investors who have held Iraqi dinar. Often for years, these developments are being seen as a powerful indication that their long-held patience may be nearing a significant milestone. For ordinary Iraqi citizens, the implications are far more immediate and personal. A stronger dinar could translate directly into increased purchasing power, meaning their salaries and savings would go further. This could make imported goods, from essential foodstuffs and medicines to consumer electronics, more affordable, raising the overall standard of living. This is why a potential currency revaluation is perceived as more than just financial news in Iraq. It is seen as a vessel of social hope, representing a chance for a more prosperous and stable future for millions of families. However, it is imperative to approach this subject with a clear understanding of the associated challenges. Strengthening a currency is a double-edged sword. While it benefits consumers and importers, it can simultaneously make a country's exports more expensive and less competitive on the global market. This presents a significant challenge for Iraqi policymakers, who will need to navigate this transition carefully to balance the interests of all sectors of the economy. They must implement supporting policies to ensure that as the dinar potentially grows stronger, domestic industries are not disadvantaged. This reinforces the urgent need for economic diversification, a long-term project that is now more critical than ever. Iraq's economy remains heavily dependent on oil revenues, which are traded in US dollars and thus provide a buffer against some currency fluctuations. However, for long-term sustainable growth, the nation must cultivate other sectors. Industries such as agriculture, manufacturing, technology, and tourism must be nurtured and prepared to capitalize on the benefits of a more stable monetary environment. A stronger and more predictable currency can attract the foreign investment needed to build these industries, but they must be developed in a way that allows them to thrive and contribute to national growth, creating jobs and opportunities that extend far beyond the oil fields. This is the complex, long-term economic vision that underpins the current currency reform efforts for the international investment community. This latest signal has reignited a sense of optimism that had waned over years of slow progress. For a long time, the prevailing belief among many observers was that Iraq's economic recovery was not a question of if, but when. The logic was that once a greater degree of political and social stability was achieved, the true economic potential of the nation, and by extension the dinar, would naturally emerge. Now, with credible reports of the specific rate being discussed, those long-standing predictions are gaining newfound traction and credibility. If the 80 cents rate, or something approaching it, were to become a reality, it could act as a powerful catalyst, triggering a significant new wave of foreign direct investment into the country. This potential influx of capital would likely target key sectors ripe for development, such as national infrastructure, energy, telecommunications, and crucially, the banking and financial services sector itself. Investors who have been watching from the sidelines, hesitant to commit capital due to perceived risks, may be encouraged to re-enter the market. They would be drawn by the dual promise of a strengthening currency and a government that appears more genuinely committed to implementing deep and lasting structural reforms than at any point in its recent history. This synergy between a stronger currency and increased investment could create a virtuous cycle, accelerating Iraq's economic development and further cementing its stability for the future. To better understand the delicate nature of this process, it can be helpful to look at the experiences of other nations that have navigated similar economic transitions. Although each country's situation is unique, Vietnam's journey offers some relevant parallels. Decades ago, Vietnam faced its own set of challenges, including a large cash-based shadow economy, significant inflationary risks, and a deep-seated public mistrust of the formal banking system. One of the key lessons that emerged from Vietnam's experience, and from similar cases around the world, was clear, gradual, transparent, and well-communicated reforms tend to be far more effective and sustainable than sudden, disruptive shocks to the system. Iraq appears to be embracing this lesson, carefully studying the successes and avoiding the mistakes of others. The overarching goal of this methodical approach is not to achieve a temporary, speculative gain but to engineer a sustainable economic transformation. The objective is to build a financial system that is resilient enough to withstand external global pressures and provide a foundation for long-term stability and prosperity. For the average Iraqi citizen, this is where the policy discussions in Baghdad and Washington connect with the realities of daily life. The prospect of a stronger dinar is the prospect of a more secure future. It means walking into a local market and finding that your salary can buy more for your family. It means that savings held in a bank account might actually grow in real value, instead of being steadily eroded by inflation. This potential transformation could be profoundly life-altering. A stronger dinar offers hope that extends beyond mere numbers on a currency exchange board. It speaks to the very fabric of daily existence. It represents an opportunity to rebuild national confidence from the inside out, to create sustainable employment, and to attract the kind of long-term, strategic investment that can help modernize Iraq's cities, schools, hospitals, and industries. This is why the process is viewed not simply as a financial reform but as a potential national rebirth, a chance for Iraq to reclaim its historic position as a vital economic and cultural hub in the region. The stakes are incredibly high, touching every aspect of society. Behind the public-facing news, a massive and complex preparatory effort is reportedly underway. Banks across the country are said to be testing new systems and upgrading their technological infrastructure to handle the transition. Financial experts, both within Iraq and at international institutions, are running sophisticated predictive models to anticipate and mitigate any potential negative consequences, such as a sudden spike in inflation. Government officials are working diligently to ensure that the rollout is managed in a way that is both efficient and equitable. The Central Bank of Iraq is in constant coordination with its international counterparts to align timelines, verify national reserves, and ensure that every technical detail is meticulously accounted for. This level of precision is absolutely critical. In the interconnected world of modern finance, every decimal point and every calculation matters immensely. A single misstep or miscommunication could cause significant confusion and volatility across global markets, potentially undermining the entire effort. This is why the process, while deeply exciting for many, is also being conducted with extreme caution and deliberation. The guiding principle is precision. If this new rate does go live in the coming months, its impact will not be confined to Iraq's borders. The ripple effects are expected to be felt far and wide, particularly across the Middle East. A stable and strengthening Iraqi dinar would serve as a powerful symbol of post-conflict recovery and could significantly boost investor confidence throughout the entire region. It would send a clear message that nations can, with the right strategies and international support, emerge from periods of hardship to rebuild and thrive. A more prosperous Iraq could also spur new trade deals, foster regional partnerships, and attract development programs that would further solidify its economic standing. In essence, the narrative of Iraq could shift from one of recovery to one of remarkable resurgence, offering a model for others to follow and contributing to greater regional stability. Nevertheless, amidst the growing optimism, it is crucial to maintain a realistic perspective. While the reported U.S. signaling of a potential 80 cents rate is a truly significant development, it does not mean that the revaluation process is complete or guaranteed. Rather, it indicates that the process is actively in motion and that the global alignment required for such a move has reached a new level of credibility. As any experienced financial analyst will attest, patience remains a critical virtue in matters of currency reform. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is the painstaking work of laying a solid foundation for decades of future growth and prosperity. Ultimately, the long-term success of this endeavor will depend on the continued commitment of all stakeholders. Iraq's leaders, its economists, its international partners, and its citizens all have a vital role to play in ensuring that this moment of opportunity is translated into lasting positive change. As of today, the signs of progress are unmistakable. The direction of reform appears clear, the international coordination seems to be real, and the possibility of a dramatically stronger Iraqi dinar feels closer than it has in many years. For a nation that has endured so much, this represents something far more profound than a simple number. It represents the promise of renewal. So, what comes next on this historic journey? The world will continue to monitor every development coming out of Iraq with intense interest. From the potential release of new currency notes to the ongoing signals of international financial coordination, the path ahead is still long, but the progress made thus far is undeniable. The signals that have recently emerged are among the clearest to date, and Iraq appears poised to seize this critical opportunity. If all the necessary pieces continue to fall into place, the long-held dream of a revalued, stable, and powerful Iraqi dinar may finally be on the verge of becoming a reality. The next chapter of Iraq's economic history is being written right now, and it is a story that the entire world is watching.